Big Drive Energy, the last episode of 2025, and it's a special one. We have Davis Bryant joining us, DP World Tour player, guy's on an absolute heater since we talked to him last, won the Colorado Open, former CSU men's golfer. We're going to talk to him about what it's like playing on the DP World Tour, his clubs, everything that he's doing traveling around Europe, and how his DP World Tour Q school went, which no surprise was he was incredible there as well. So we're going to bring Davis on and talk to him in the last episode of 2025. Big Drive Energy, the last episode of 2025. And we have the man, the myth, the legend, Davis Bryant, joining us on Big Drive Energy. What a way to finish 2025. Davis, thanks so much for stopping by. And I know you're in Colorado right now, but appreciate you taking the time on your New Year's Eve to talk to us. How you been, man?
I've been good. It's been nice to be home for a little longer than a week or so at a time. So, yeah, it's been great holidays with the family, and looking forward to 2026. Hopefully everyone is excited for another great year coming up.
Yeah, I've got a quick question for you, because we saw you at the Colorado PGA Awards dinner back in October. Got to chop it up with you a little bit and kind of get this going back on the track to get you on the pod. We don't know what we were supposed to be doing there, but how did you get to go to that? Is it like an invite? Like, what was the story behind you getting to go to that?
Well, so Dustin Miller, who owns the Swing Bays, is one of my sponsors this year, and so he was getting his award at the dinner, and so I wanted to go there and support. And luckily I was in town; I could make it. Certainly, he's been a big help for me this year, as far as all the travel and helping me. And then when I'm in town, I try and be involved as much as I can down at their location in Parker. And he's got some big plans to franchise outside the state, and he's already kind of opened, or will be opening, some locations here in Colorado around the Denver metro area. So that's why I was at the dinner. That's where we ran into each other, and it was great to catch up, and glad I could hop on and share my experience about international golf and what it's like, and just there's a whole nother world out there that not very many people in America get to see. So
yeah, I gotta say, I love Dustin's the man. Dustin's a great dude, and he made me feel so much more comfortable because I didn't have a full suit on, and I asked some different people about wearing a full suit, and then I got the email like 3 hours before the dinner that was like, not full suit is not required, or not. It's just like, nice business casual or business, whatever the words they used. And then I saw Dustin, and I'm like, this guy's got it going on. And he's just one of the nice dudes. Like, a lot of, being in that dinner, obviously I didn't fit the other award winners as much as, just the typical Colorado PGA guys or whatever. But Dustin's just one of those dudes that I talked to him for a little bit, and he's just another one of those like really good PGA. There's a lot of good PGA pros out there, but there's a lot of PGA pros that are going to tell you they're a PGA pro and they're going to act a certain way, and Dustin's just not that way. So that's cool that he's one of your sponsors, and it's amazing to see, like, in Parker, kind of close to where we grew up, what he's building and that whole thing. It's nuts.
Totally. Yeah, it's a cool it's just a different idea where you can get better at golf. You can kind of treat it like a social hour if you'd like. If you want to just go there and practice by yourself, you can do that. If you want some merchandise, or you want to have a beer on the way home from work, or you need some club repair, it kind of is a one-stop shop for everything. So very cool idea. It's great that he's, expanding and hopefully continuing to go down the process of opening more locations. And so, it'll be see what it turns out to be.
Yeah, the simulators are popping off right now. But so you mentioned travel earlier, and I want to get into that because that is being from America, going and playing on the DP World Tour, what time zone does your body feel like it's in? Like, are you just in constant influx? Because like it's hard enough to get out on a tour and try to play really good golf, keep your card, hopefully win, make a living. And this is your first year doing this, and you're going into different time, like a completely different time zone from America. So give us a little insight as like how long it takes you to adjust. If it was easier later in the season, if you got more adjusted, and now that you're back in Colorado, are you like going to bed at 3 p.m. and waking up at 2 a.m. because it's just your sleep schedule? Like,
For the first, I would say it's more difficult to travel east back west than it is to travel west going east. A couple of my teammates from college who were international students, they gave me a little tip of like, you should sleep as much as you can going east, and then when you go home, not sleep as much. So that's worked out pretty well. Luckily, I've been able to sleep more than I thought I'd be able to on some planes. I'm usually trying to do a couple longer flights rather than multiple shorter flights if I can. So I'd rather just get on the plane and sit there and get there. So, but yeah, I'd say it takes about, once I get to a tournament, try and get there either Saturday if I've had a lot of time off, maybe 2 or 3 weeks off, or Sunday. And then usually Thursday's round one, but like 2 days is okay. If I need an afternoon nap, I'll take one. I kind of just listen to my body, and if I need a nap, I take a nap. But going back home is a lot more challenging. Usually it takes me 4 or 5 days to feel comfortable. And like you said, it's just, it's one thing if every PGA Tour event or every DP event was, within an hour of where you live. It'd be a completely different story. Or if you're, on team charter planes and you're playing 82 games a year in the NHL or the NBA, that's completely different than playing 162 games in the MLB. So I'd say it's just a different wear and tear, and we all three of us know how hard the game is mentally. And usually I just play 18 holes between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then luckily my caddy knows a lot of the courses. If we need to walk the holes, walk one of the front 9 or the back 9 in addition to playing it just to see it again, we'll do that. But, rest is pretty key. I try and do a lot of the practice Monday, Tuesday on the course. And then usually Wednesdays are pro-ams. So I'm really not playing in any of those yet. Hopefully that's down the road once I solidify myself. And then Wednesday is kind of just a chill day. Do some practice, work on some fundamentals, make sure my body feels good. And then you kind of go from there. So I'd say as the season, to answer your last question about did I feel better as the season went along? It did, just knowing that I kind of knew what to expect. I've probably been to 25 countries maybe this year. I got a nice map I can put up kind of on one of these walls in my room here and kind of map out where I've been, which is pretty sweet. So, but yeah, it's a challenge. I'd love to, obviously the goal is to get back to the PGA Tour, get back to the United States and, progress from there. But, I've just been telling people, they ask, what is it like? How do you like it? And I'm just like, I get to go, we have the opportunity, if you play on the DP World Tour or the Challenge Tour for that matter, you get to go to one country 1 week at a time, and you just get to see what it's like, and you get to earn potentially a lot of money at each country. So very fortunate, very grateful. I certainly don't take it for granted. I'm so glad I signed up for Q School 16 months ago. And I just had a blast. I had so much fun, and it's, anytime I get to, you're playing golf for a living, but to do it on the stage I'm doing it in the areas that I get to do it can't beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I can personally tell you that my dream job is to play on the DP World Tour. So I love traveling, and I think it's a lot of people's dream job. So I think you can take some enjoyment. Obviously, it's a different level of pressure when you're actually doing it rather than just thinking of doing it. But I don't think a lot of people understand too, because it was your first year on the DP World Tour, you're adjusting to the time zones. You've also never played these courses before. So this is your first time. Like, I don't think people understand what kind of advantage veterans on the tour have versus rookies. Like, it is actually harder to stay on tour as a younger dude than it is to stay on tour as a veteran guy, just because you don't have the experience, the different countries, all of that stuff. So, I mean, what you did this season was really impressive, man. It was I just don't think people understand the scope of the travel and the different cultures, learning all the and then it feels like golf is almost like taking a back seat, but it obviously can't, because that's what you're there to do. Like, you somehow have to focus on golf, yet you're traveling across 4 or 5 countries and time zones, and it's super cool, man. I can only imagine how much fun it was.
Indeed. Yeah, you touched on a lot of those things where yeah, it's one thing playing the game and then playing at a high level and then playing it in a different country with people you don't know very well. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, is knowing more players on the tour, knowing some of the more caddies that we can kind of mingle around with, and just having friends. Anytime if you're in a finance job or a real estate job, anytime you're going to that second year of that profession, this being my third year as a professional, but a second year, international golf, it's going to be, completely more comfortable. Yeah, there's going to be times where it's going to be like, a new country here, a new country there. It's going to be different, but I'm going to be more prepared, more comfortable, know what to expect, have more friends, know the courses, know the languages, know the hotels that I didn't like or that I did like. Should I do an Airbnb here? Should I not? Just you learn these things and you figure them out. And yeah, I can't wait.
I was going to ask you about that, obviously there's a lot of travel involved, and it's not, if you're on the PGA Tour, obviously there's a ton of areas you're more familiar with. There you're not. So does the DP World Tour help the players out a ton of like, hey, here's you don't have to stay here, but here's a place you should probably stay or is close enough? Or do you have to plan all that travel yourself, or do you have somebody that kind of does that for you? How does that whole part of it work?
Yeah, usually each week there's a host hotel or two that the tour has basically contracted out with a Hyatt or a Hampton Inn or some local place in Kenya, whatever it ends up being. But yeah, usually the countries where it's, I kind of want to say the word unsafe, but sometimes the countries that seem unsafe to someone that doesn't know it's okay. So, for example, everyone in South Africa and Kenya and India, and if it's a remote area, are always doing the host hotels. Sometimes those are more expensive rather than you getting a rental car, figuring out your Airbnb, or figuring out another hotel. The nice thing about the host hotels is they have transportation from airport to hotel, and then hotel to golf course every day throughout the week, and then to the airport at the end of the tournament week. So usually you don't have to rent a car, depending on if you're comfortable driving on the other side of the road. Depending on what country you're in, that is a plus or a minus. But yeah, and then I have an agent who helps me with the travel as far as the flights, the hotels, the rental cars. He kind of maps through what the prices are, what they have different deadlines as far as when you got to book things. So we just work through that and book what I want, book what how much I want to spend, and go from there. So
well, yeah, because you got to imagine, once you start making a little money out there, you're like, oh, I'd rather take this direct flight rather than these 3 connectors. Like, I'm sure there's a level to it where
Spirit Airlines from Denver to
exactly.
Texas.
Like, get me out of the middle seat in this 5-hour flight. I want economy plus, or whatever. And I guess it's just whatever you're comfortable with spending. But I'm sure, because that's the other aspect of it as well, like how comfortable you travel. Like, you're doing so much of it that it's truly an investment in yourself. If you're sitting in a bucket seat for 6 hours in the middle seat, you know, you get off the plane and your back feels like shit. Your body doesn't feel great, where you actually are needing to think about like your body is your number one priority. So you gotta probably, you know, make the investment where you can, right?
Totally. Yeah. I haven't flown first class yet. I'm probably not far away from at least trying it. But once I try it, I'm not going back, I don't think so.
That's the problem. Yeah. Once you get a taste, you can't go back to sitting in the back of the plane. That's for sure.
No, it's yeah, I think like that factors into just learning what to do. You know, the guys that have been out there for 10 or 15 years, they know how to get the ball in the hole, and they can keep their card every year, and they have the experience to be able to, you know, use that and gain off of it. And then they also know how to travel. So certainly a lot more prepared and comfortable this next year. And getting off to a good start in Australia was huge. You know, getting some points, getting a little bit of money to start the year, and feeling a little bit less behind the eight ball than I was a year ago when I didn't decide to play in those events. We had our category had some hard time getting into some tournaments. It's probably going to be that same way again this year, being in the same Q school category. But yeah, you know, you roll with the punches, take advantage of what starts you get. It should be roughly 20 events, I'd say. Is probably what I'll get into, and hopefully I can play my way into more. Or if I win, I can get into everything. So that would be that's the goal. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're I was doing a little research. Obviously, you're a ping guy. How did that come about? Have you always played ping clubs? Did they kind of reach out to you? Did you have some options? Because it is funny now, even like the Rory McIlroys and the Scotty Schefflers of the world, a lot of those players, they have a club deal, but then they're like, no, it seems like the years of old where somebody has a full bag, you know, from putter all the way to driver of all the same clubs. So how did that deal come about? And ping is one of those where when Mitchell and I worked at the course, we didn't stock a lot of pings because we didn't meet their rep a ton. You know, we're stocking the TaylorMade drivers and the Callaways and all that stuff. But ping always seemed to be one of those companies that it wasn't like your flashiest when the year came out, but a lot of people just felt really comfortable with ping irons. And then the driver and the woods have made a huge jump, and the putters as well. So like, talk to us about ping and just that, how comfortable you feel with those clubs.
Yeah, well, ping is the only brand I've ever played. There might have been a couple one-offs like late high school, but I met one of their senior amateur reps, I want to say when I was 17, and basically it was just like, hey, I know you're going to Colorado State. I know the coach there, this and that, and he gave me free stuff all through college. We had a couple other guys on the team that played ping as well, so we would all pretty much, I'd go down to Phoenix and get fit once a year before the season began in the spring. And yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, great facility, very similar to the Titleist, the Callaways, the Scotty Camerons, TaylorMades in California. So all three of those I think are in California. But yeah, so I played their club since I was 13 years old. I met the rep when I was 17, and then I did college, all through college, did a mini tour, kind of deal with them my first year, and then went on staff with them basically just about a year ago for my first year. So yeah, I play all their clubs, use their bag, use the head covers, use everything. And I just work with their Europe. They have a headquarters about 4 hours north of London, I believe is where it is. I haven't been to it yet, but yeah, they're great. I mean, the woods, I would say kind of 20, maybe 17, 2018 or later, I would say it kind of took off. The putters have made a big jump. You know, when I set down a 7-iron, it looks clean. It looks nice. It has a thin top line. I play all the 240s, I think they are, and you know, no combo set or anything. But as far as the woods go and the forgiveness of the driver, it's incredible. I mean, I'd say if you want to hit it straight and you want to hit it far, go ping, because they
you got a ghost in that room right there or what?
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Anyway, yeah, it's a great brand. I think the woods are, you set down the 3-wood at either 15 degrees or 16 degrees, and depending on kind of the lie angles, you can change a little bit. It all looks pretty square. Some of the brands, you set them down and one looks closed, one looks open, and it's just like, depending on where you play, and we're playing in pretty much any condition every week. So anytime you do want to change those things, it's like, I want a club that no matter what setting I have it on, I want it to look the same. Yeah, they're awesome. They're great. And that's kind of how that came to be. And I've got a contract with them this year as well. So hopefully big things ahead, and we can continue that relationship from here on out.
So did you have some I2s then? Some olds? Like, is that one of your first sets, was the Ping I2s?
He's not that old.
I'm not that old.
Well, I know he's not that old, but I'm saying, like, sometimes, your dad was in the business, you get some hand-me-downs, like, you never know.
No, I think he played Bridgestone clubs when he kind of towards the end when he stopped playing in some section events. But no, my first set was G25s. And let's see here, G25.
The G25s were thick back then.
They were thick. I remember I had the lob wedge, sand wedge, gap wedge in the G25s, and that was when I was 13, I think. And I remember trying to set down the lob wedge and like open it up, and the sole is so thick that you'd have it like flat, and the leading edge would be like this, and it's just like, how am I going to get the leading edge like underneath the ball?
You got 30 degrees of bounce on that puppy. That leading edge is pointed almost backwards when you lay it open.
Too much. So yeah, G25s, and then the I210s or 200s, and then the 210s, 220s, 230s, 240s. Maybe started with like the G driver, and then went to maybe G400 when that came out. That was elite. That was really good. So G400, 410, 420. 20 or 25, 430. Now we're at 440. So I've had pretty much everything they have came out with. The PLD putters are great if you're looking for something that you can customize. You can customize what shape you want, what neck you want. Obviously, shaft length, color, grip, anything. Whatever you want to make, you can make. You can make it softer. You can make it firmer. They can have it kind of milled a lot to where it's really soft, which is what I have. You can have it, just basically a smooth face. It sounds a little more clicky, like a Scotty Cameron. Never had a Scotty Cameron, but that's what I hear. And then, yeah, it's a great brand.
So I got to ask you on the topic of equipment, because we've seen guys on tour that play, like Brant Snedeker was gaming a 15-year-old driver. There's I think Nick Watney forever played the 2007 Pro V1. So like, how lenient, I guess you can only speak for Ping, but like, if you fell in love with their 2022 driver, or just a stick that you want to keep in the bag that you don't want to get rid of, do they care? And do they possibly like keep any of those, back in the warehouse for the tour guys that want them? And like with balls, do you have a ball that you are in love with from a certain year model that just performs better for you? Or do you just kind of roll with the new stuff and adjust to it?
I pretty much roll with the new stuff and adjust to it. I think depending on the product year that it was made, they might have some stragglers in the back, but pretty much once their inventory is out, outside of a one-off situation, you probably have to look at eBay like anyone else. But
okay.
Yeah, I like I play the 2025 Pro V1X. I changed that in May. I was playing the Pro V1 since I was probably 18 years old, 17 years old.
Well, yeah, they totally changed the Pro V.
They switched them, and then I needed some more spin around the greens, some more height on the irons. 7-iron was spinning like way too low, and anytime I was playing a firm course with downwind out of the rough, the ball was just not staying in the air long enough. So I changed that in May, and then I had some great weeks, kind of middle of the summer. So that's been a big added plus. I think that if you get fit in the right golf ball, first of all, the shaft of any club is the most critical. But the golf ball's important as far as just the feel. I'd say it's more important for a higher caliber player than an 8 handicap. But
for sure,
you also you just kind of want to know what you're hitting, and if you have an idea on how far your clubs go, to a rough extent, your dispersion is really going to be based off of the shafts, in my opinion. Shafts critical. It's usually the Indian though, not the arrow. So
that is a fact. But everybody, it's much easier to change the arrow than it is the Indian. So that's people generally end up changing the arrow multiple times before they look inward. Unfortunately,
true.
So going back to this past season on the DP World Tour, give us your favorite course and then your least favorite course. And each of these could be just straight up the golf course, but they also could be the golf course was but the hotel and the accommodations were off the charts, or the hotel and accommodations were sketchy as hell. And that's like, I don't want to go back there type of scenario. Or
on the other side of it, I'm sure there's probably some golf courses that you liked, but you maybe didn't like the area and you just didn't feel comfortable. So like, let's separate it into golf course and then like overall. So
sure. I'd say favorite golf course was, well, I'll go least favorite golf course first. Least favorite, this one in Italy we played, which I played well. I finished 10th. But there was like one driver around, a couple of 3-woods, a couple of hybrids, but then there were like 5 par 4s that we hit like 7-iron off the tee, which kind of just, anytime you're playing high level golf and you hit 7-iron off a par 4, it's just not very good. So I think that
you hit driver so straight, you can hit driver anywhere. Didn't you realize that?
Yeah. I mean, there were some holes out there. It just didn't make any sense. So, but it was just a little funky.
Yeah. See, now I know how the different level of your golf and mine, like if I hate a course, it's because I play like shit there. You're like, finished pretty well here, but fucking hate it.
Yeah,
but 7-iron off the tee would get pretty old, to be honest.
I think that, I don't know, if you just kind of had to accept how you were going to play the course, but I just didn't like having to hit 6-7-iron off 5 or 6 par 4s. So let's see, favorite course. Well, Italy was one of my favorite locations to visit. Italy, Austria.
What region of Italy were you playing in?
We were about an hour west of Rome, I believe it was.
Okay.
So I went into Rome for a day or two beforehand, kind of did the whole tourist thing by myself, which was incredible. I'm very glad I did that. And then Austria kind of reminds me of Colorado. Mountains. We were kind of by this lake where the course was. We had an Airbnb overlooking the lake.
Are you talking Crans, Montana?
No, that's Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
Got you. But Switzerland was like Aspen, but in Switzerland. I mean, it was like Switzerland to Aspen, basically. That was pretty cool. The course was okay. Again, I didn't play very good, but it was at elevation. I should have played better. That was a rough part in the year. Favorite course.
Real quick, I did fire like 65 at Crans, Montana on the TrackMan, so I think that I need to maybe go to DP World Tour Q School now.
I'll call them. They got an invite for you this year. Yeah,
I would love that. And then I can go out there and fire 78, 82. That would be lovely.
Done. Yeah. England was good. I played well in England. I mean, Germany, I really enjoyed the course. I finished 4th there, so that's hard to go against. Turkey was fun. I don't know. They're all good. I mean, I'd probably have to say the British Masters, where they played the Ryder Cup in like the early to mid 90s, I think. Tends to drivable par 4. Pretty historic hole in the Ryder Cup, I believe, back in like maybe 90, 93, I think.
What course is that? Is it the Belfry?
The Belfry, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, the Belfry. So that was a blast. Loved it. Played great. I did make a hole. I did make a hole in one in Germany, which was incredible. So that was cool. But yeah, just a lot of cool moments. I mean, going to different places. Every course was different. A lot of them are just shorter and kind of position yourself around rather than the the PGA Tour. You gotta bomb it everywhere. You gotta hit long. You gotta hit straight. You gotta just bomb and gouge pretty much, rather than a lot of the courses in Europe. We can kind of finagle ourselves around, really.
I was going to ask you that because playing style wise, there's definitely, like you mentioned, a difference between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. Would you say that generally speaking, your game suits the DP World Tour more than the PGA Tour? Because you're not the longest guy out there. You're not short by any means, but you're not long, but you're very accurate. And it feels like the DP World Tour still values more of those old school style courses where you got to hit it straight. You got to keep your ball in play. You got to miss in the right spots. And it feels like, and I guess I'm going to add this into the question because there was one that I wanted to ask. If money was equal, and obviously it's different because you're from America playing in a different country, but if all else was equal, would you stay on the DP World Tour over playing on the PGA Tour simply out of playing style? Or is the PGA Tour still the ultimate goal for you?
Yeah, I would definitely choose the PGA Tour. If you're able to earn the same amount of money, and it was apples to apples, yeah, the PGA Tour is the dream. I'd say my game suits the DP World Tour, yeah, definitely more. Not to say that I probably can't figure it out there. It's going to take a little bit more work and a little bit more. I need to get better for that for sure. But yeah, I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. It's just shorter courses, tighter courses. Yeah, I'd probably say it. But I can play anywhere, so it's okay.
I love that.
Yeah. How has it been with like playing on the DP World Tour? And so going into this year, you have a little bit more maybe of a consistent schedule. Do you know what your schedule is kind of coming up or what you're allowed to get into? And then is it a weird, not that it happens all the time, but the DP World Tour is so interesting to me. I'm not as big of a DP World Tour guy as Mitchell is. He like watches it all the time, but it's got to be kind of weird that like a guy like Rory or some guys just come over and play random events and then they go back to the PGA Tour. So do you know like week to week, okay, this field is going to have a few PGA Tour guys or a few top level guys from the world? And then how does that factor into what you get to choose to play in, obviously, and then how many tournaments you get next year? Is it like guaranteed amount, or are you like, all right, we get to play here, 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 and here, and then if you win, obviously, or have good finishes, you'll get exemptions into more of those events?
Yeah, it's not really guaranteed at all. It's kind of forecasted or broadcasted to the people that sign up for Q School that it's a full card, full status if you finish inside the top 20. Finishing inside the top 20 gets you into that category. But if you finish 18th in Q School, you own 18th place on the list versus finishing third gets you third. And then, there's some reshuffles throughout the year after every swing. But, yeah, there's not really a guarantee. I'd say 2, 3, 4 years ago, guys are probably getting into 25 average events from that category. And I was kind of in the top, I'd say 30 or 40% of the category last year. I only got 18 events. I think I played 18 events. So you don't, to answer your other question, you don't really know until 2 weeks before the event begins. So if the event starts on February 14th, on February 1st, you find out the field size or the entries close 2 weeks out. So you can't sign up after 2 weeks or inside 2 weeks. And so you know where you stand on the list, whether you're in the number and in the field or you're outside. So most of the time before Europe begins, I think in first week of May, I think it is, you'll get maybe half the starts or half the events. That's just a number off the top of my head. And then pretty much from there on in Europe, the rest of the year, you'll get pretty much everything, maybe 80% of the events. So, and then all the Rolex events, you don't get into the events with like bigger purses. So like that one in India, like 2 months back, obviously Rory's playing.
That one would have suited your game too. I heard like guys legitimately didn't hit driver once.
Yeah, it would have. I was second reserve. I was in China. And I decided, no, I was first reserve, actually. I was first reserve. I decided not to go. It was like Tuesday night. I would have gotten there until like 10 o'clock Wednesday night. And I was like, well, I can play in China in a challenge tour event, or I can maybe not even get into India. So I decided to play in China, and I wouldn't have gotten in. So I'm glad I made
That's got to be satisfying to know that like you made the right call.
Yeah, but it'll be a lot of back and forth like it was last year, where there will be some refundable flights purchased. There will be some hotels canceled last minute or bought last minute, depending. And hopefully I can play well enough to get out of that category and then choose my schedule for next year. So if you keep your card, you get into category 10, you can pretty much play in everything except a couple of the Rolex events and the majors. You kind of got to earn your way into the majors, but you can choose the way you want. If you don't want to go to India, don't go to India. If you don't want to go to China, don't go to China. So you have flexibility once you get into category 10. And anyone can see that on the app. If you pull out the app, you'll click on a tournament. You see the entry list inside 2 weeks. You see the different categories, and that's basically how they weight each event. So they basically put like, if you win tournaments above a certain amount of money, you go to the top. A little bit less money, you're kind of below them. People that kept their card, medical exemptions or like extensions, and then Q school is kind of at the bottom there. So that's how it works.
So piggybacking on that question just a little bit, just spending a year on the DP World Tour playing with different dudes, and I've got other questions about playing partners, but do you feel like there's any sort of general disdain for some of the top level guys that just pop over when they want to pop over and like not necessarily take a spot, but there's guys that have been grinding out there, 15, 20 years, and they get booted for a Rory or a big name that comes in and has an exemption? Or is it just like a I need to play better type of situation? Or some of these guys like, oh, look at this dickhead, shows up for 1 week, to the highest purse on the DP World Tour, makes all the money, and then goes back to America type of thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, the game needs those guys. The Brian Harmons of the world, and the Rorys, and the Fleetwoods, and the John Rahms, and the Garcias, and David Puigs, and the whole live thing. That I'm not even going to get into the live thing, but like they like.
Oh, I had like 7 questions on live.
But like we like the game needs like those players, and it sucks that takes away from our opportunities for like myself. But I see that if we don't have those guys, the sponsors aren't going to put up the money for tournaments, and we're not playing for the same amount of money either. So, if you want to play for the money that you're playing for, or hopefully the money increases as we keep going along, then there needs to be room for some of those guys. But yeah, it's I mean, it is what it is. I can't get a straight answer from really anyone on like why guys get into some events and others don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of double piggybacking off of that, have you met some people that you've played with the past year where you're like, you kind of have some friendships building, I guess you could say, on the DP World Tour, and how is that dynamic with some of the guys that obviously probably don't speak as good of English, or they're speaking an entirely different language, and you go to a tournament and you're like playing with one dude from here and one dude from here, and neither of them speak English. Does that allow you to kind of focus, even just with the whole travel thing, and like you said, not having a ton of people around and friends, just like focus more on your game? Or do you kind of reach out? Are you me, where you just be like insular and focusing on your game, or Mitchell, where he's like chatting up all these new guys and trying to meet all of these new different playing partners and guys that you can kind of become friends with out there?
Yeah. Obviously the communication depends on obviously how well the language, or how the extent of the language barrier is. But yeah, I'd say, most guys have a lot of, banter back and forth, and they communicate fine and talk about various things and where they're from and what they do and how they got there. And the camaraderie on the European Tour, DP World Tour, is completely different than like what I hear it's like on the PGA Tour. As far as,
I was going to ask you that.
there's a reason why the DP World Tour there's a reason why Europe wins Ryder Cups, because we spend time in the same countries. They spend time in the same countries, same hotels. They go out to dinner all year round. And I know that most of those guys are now on the PGA Tour, but the the whole vibe of where like they started. A lot of those guys started on the DP World Tour, and so Europe's just a more tight knit group. Is how I'd put it. I would say, yeah.
So another question about playing partners. Was there one dude that just was like sneaky hilarious? Like you had no expectations and then he ended up being awesome. Like you made buddies with him and it was like the last person you thought you'd be friends with.
Nothing really comes to mind as far as like hilarious or funny, but the highlight was probably playing with Shane Lowry at the Irish Open. That was incredible.
He seems like a low-key pretty funny dude. He likes to make jokes out there. He seems like a pretty low-key dude.
Yeah, I didn't think, I don't know, I guess like, high caliber player like that, top 10 or 20 in the world maybe at the time. You just don't know how he's going to react or how he's going to handle a situation with someone like me. So it was a great day. Super, super smooth, super nice. It was a twosome, so it was easy as can be. And yeah, just fun to meet people from all over the world, really. So
100%.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is just the you've made it to the DP World Tour and now the American record holder for the lowest score in the DP World Tour qualifying. So shout out to you for that. But we were kind of like thinking of the dynamic of playing on the Corn Ferry Tour versus the DP World Tour, and why don't we see more guys trying to go to Europe versus playing on the Corn Ferry Tour, or do they try? They just can't. It's tougher to get through. Like, has there been times where you're like, God, obviously the money's not as good, but I could go to the Corn Ferry Tour and maybe even dominate more and be in America where I'm comfortable, or go to the DP World Tour. And now, of course, the top 10 every year get to go to the PGA Tour. So what was your thought process on that? And like, what do you think about the Corn Ferry Tour versus the DP World Tour at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great avenue. I think it's, I think the quality of the players is very similar as far as the field. I'd say it's numbers wise, it's just harder to make a cut on the Corn Ferry Tour because of the scores that they shoot. But I think the courses and the conditions and the weather usually plays a different factor than what we have in Europe, or other countries outside Europe for that matter. Yeah, I find it, I'd say with where I'm at the point in my life, it's just to have the opportunity to travel internationally, play this game, meet the people I get to meet, and whether I play for 2 more years or 12 more years, the experiences I'll have are great. So I'd say that's just a big draw. Now, there were a ton of people. I think the most Americans ever signed up for Q School for stage 1 for Europe this past year in September, or like late August, early September, whatever it was. So there are people that are trying to make it over here. Now it's just obviously difficult. You got to make it through stage 1, finish in the top 18 roughly. Stage 2, finish in the top 18 roughly. And that's 18 in ties at first stage, I think, 18 exactly at second stage, and the top 20 get their card. And then 6 rounds at final stage. So you're talking 14 rounds of golf overseas, 2 separate trips as well if you are coming from America. So, and you're probably looking at a pretty steep check as well to make that all happen. So
yeah, no joke. Well, like you said, I think that factors in at the end of the day. You don't know how long you're going to be out there. You could be out there for 30 years. You could be out there for 3, but 10 years from now, you can talk about all your different experiences all over Europe instead of staying at a Motel 6 in Wichita, Kansas. Like, nobody wants to do that shit regardless. So, kind of on the playing partner topic, obviously when you're out there, you're focusing on your own game for the most part, and you're grinding, not really getting caught up with outside stuff, I guess I'd say. But was there one dude that just did something so well that it just like stood out to you, like driving the ball or putting? You're just like, this is not regular. This is not something I'm used to seeing.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're also good too. That's what's tough. I mean, obviously you're stupid good at the game, so you guys are all kind of there. But it just feels like there's occasionally a dude that sticks out in your mind, I guess.
I mean, to see Shane Lowry up close was like, you can tell he has like, there's a difference between being top 20 in the world and being 500 in the world. Let's call it like iron play, always missing on the fat side of the hole, always missing below the hole. Even a shot that you can tell like wasn't hit very well, but like, or wasn't hit like perfect, is like always on the right side of the hole. Um, just the way that he kind of like mapped his way around, and it was like the most boring, I think 2 or 3 under par round, and he could have shot like 6 or 7, like no one's business. Was pretty fascinating. I think everyone's got a different way to get the ball in the hole. You see some swings on the range, and you're like, what's this guy doing, or how is this guy still out here? And then you see him play, and you're like, well, he kind of has a good short game. He kind of like hits 14 greens around, and he kind of just figures it out and makes a couple 15, 20 footers. And then, before you know it, he finishes the week at 6 under par, and he's tied for 23rd. So, yeah, I mean, at any level, it's just like, there's just different ways to crack the egg, really. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you get to watch Marco Penge hit driver? Did you play with him at all? Because
Played with
he is
him twice. Yeah, I played with him twice.
okay.
My
Did that?
caddy's good friends, like best friends with his caddy.
Oh, nice.
So they're obviously going to the PGA Tour, which is awesome. Yeah, it's impressive. It's a joke. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, once you start hitting it far and hitting it straight, and then you get a few putts to go in the hole, I mean, it's like you really can't be stopped, and you have so much confidence. Like, you can just tell he's swinging at 110% on the course, and it's like he knows exactly where that ball's going, and that's a fun way to play golf.
Yeah, I am not generally familiar with that, being one of the, slower swing speed, more accurate guys. I'm not sure what it's like to just unleash like that. But for him to consistently be putting up 190 plus ball speed on the course, like in real time, where it's not just free swinging it on the driving range, that is, like you said, that takes like another level of confidence to take that to the course. But then once you have that, you have such an advantage. Like, especially the direction this game is going. Dudes that are hitting at 340 have such an advantage over, shorter players, that it's almost frustrating. It does almost come down sometimes to a little bit of luck and how you're blessed athletically and all that, but it's something you just got to work around, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's super impressive to watch. I think he's going to kill it on the PGA Tour. He's got all the skills. He's got all the confidence. Great caddy on the bag. So, yeah, when he makes his first start, maybe in Phoenix, roughly, I think is what he said. Be fun to watch.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well,
So
go ahead, Spence.
who is your caddy? Is it a guy that you've had for a long time? Is it a European guy? How did that come about? Getting a caddy for it and being like, hey, dude, we're going over to Europe and we're traveling to all these places.
Yeah, no, he lives in London, south of London. Been out there for 15 years. I think I got some names from my management company that I signed with, like right after Q school, and then they were like, you should look at this person, look at that person, and so we just went from there. And yeah, we did every DP event I got into this year, a few challenge events or hotel planner events, and then we did Australia to start the 2026 season. And yeah, we're moving forward again this year, and he's 42 years old and knows the courses, super relatable, super chill, stays, I guess, even headed depending on what's happening, good or bad.
So that process, how do you just do it like a job interview? You just sit down with the guy and ask him a few questions, see, what his vibe is like?
Yeah, just tell him like what I want, what I'm looking for, how do you operate, how do you like to handle, this conversation that might come up, or that conversation, or do you want to give me a lot of information on the course, or do you not want information on the course? Do you want a lot in the practice round? Do you not want a lot of the practice round? So, yeah, it's just, you kind of just interview what you want, but also tell him like what you're looking for as well. So it's kind of like he's kind of doing a side interview while you're doing an interview, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, you're interviewing each other to make sure it's a good fit. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, and then as you get comfortable with him, is there a point where you're like a little bit more of, if he suggests something, you're a little bit more open to it, or are you more kind of like, I know what I hit here, I know what I can do in this spot, or how has that like relationship grown over the year and now going into this year where you're like, I kind of got to put a lot of trust in this guy, to help me make as much money and get to the PGA Tour eventually as possible.
Yeah, that just comes with trust and with time. Certainly, different instances are different depending on how I feel like I'm playing or command of my game. But like, I kind of got to this point pretty much by myself, and I want to own what I do and how I play, and I don't want to lose that identity. And so there were a couple instances where I kind of let that slide a little bit. I kind of was pretty reliant on him, and so we kind of take a step back and just communicate like, I want to get back to playing the game that I know how to play, and we saw some really good results after that, so that was huge. And you just kind of hash it out and figure it out, really.
So last golf question, then we've got just a few non-golf questions. When you're in contention, you had some relatively high finishes over on the DP World Tour. Saw your name on the leaderboard a handful of times on TV. I was like, it's like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I'm like, I know that guy. That's sick. But what was the pressure level like in contention over there versus say you're coming down the stretch at the Colorado Open? Like, is there levels to this, or do you feel like that baseline of having that early success you had last year, I guess technically, yes, in 2024, do you feel like that success has catapulted you to the point where until you're in contention at like a major or a PGA Tour event or whatever, that you feel like you're pretty well prepared for the situation?
Yeah, there's a big difference between being in contention at mini tour events and being in contention to win maybe €500,000 or something like that, whatever it is. So I think like I've always talked about staying in the process, staying with the game plan of the course. Like every shot is its own, and that is like, as hard as that is to do or to kind of lose sight of possibly. Yeah, I think back to like Germany and some of the shots I hit down the stretch, and it was just like I just had command of the ball. I had command of my swing. It just like, you're playing well. It's almost easier doing all that stuff when you're playing well than it is to try and make the cut, because when you're not playing well, it's like you're trying, but it's not coming and it's not like working. And so, yeah, it's finding that consistency is like what we all strive to try and find, where your bad week's 25th or 40th, and it's not, 95th or 120th. So, yeah, just you figure it out. You figure out how to deal with the pressure and rely on your caddy and rely on what you did to deal with pressure, even though it was a different feeling and a different situation before. So, you kind of just learn with the experience, like a lot of this stuff I've talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. Experience is definitely the biggest one, but I definitely think that there's, obviously you put a lot of internal pressure on yourself, because at the end of the day, you have a 100-yard golf shot. You're like, I've hit this shot 10,000 times in my life, but I'm on the 18th hole and, in Switzerland in contention, I've got two dudes breathing down my neck. Like it's all the external factors, obviously. But at the end of the day, that, like you said, one of the hardest things to do is just to focus on that golf shot and treat it like any other golf shot you've ever hit. Like it's borderline impossible to do, but the experience, like, I mean, you're just going to keep getting better, man. Like that's, that I think that's the toughest thing. And like the caddy situation too. A lot of people don't even realize you're meeting a brand new dude that you've never met before. He's kind of, your employee, but you're figuring out that dynamic, the travel, all that. So it's just, I've enjoyed this talk, dude. I know we have a couple more questions, but the golf stuff is very cool, man. We're really happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, hit me with a couple more. Sure.
So being from Colorado, are you big Colorado sports fan? Rockies, not Rockies. Rockies is my thing, but Broncos, Nuggets, Avs, and how they're cooking right now. Is that you've been paying attention to much to that?
Try and follow the Avs as much as I can. Probably follow them the most. Broncos second, Nuggets third. But yeah, I love hockey. I got a VPN. I can watch, well, depending on the time zone, I can watch some of the games through DirecTV on my iPad. So that's helpful. It's great just to kind of feel like I'm in America and I'm not. So yeah, it'd be fun to have 3 parades coming up. That'd be incredible.
Right? Wouldn't that be sick?
Yeah.
That'd
and
be
obviously
unreal.
Bo Nix and the Broncos, it's amazing because we went 10 years without anything good. So
I know.
nothing good.
We're getting playoff tickets, and I'm like figuring out, when the playoff games are going to be and going to them. And it doesn't feel like that long ago. And then I look back at the last time we were in the playoffs and had home playoff games, and I was in college, and I am, 32 now. So it's a lot longer than it feels like in the scope of things. But it's fun to have these teams here in Denver and just being electric, all 3 of them at this time, where it's like it almost feels like they never lose.
Totally. Yeah, I think the Avs have 2 or 3 regular season losses, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's literally unheard of. Quick food question: what was your favorite place to eat over on the DP World Tour? Like, what was? Because I've heard stories where the food is just phenomenal, and obviously it's kind of personal as well. If you're a big Italian fan, you're gonna like the food in Italy. If you're so on and so forth. But where did you go where you're like, holy shit, I can't have a bad meal here. It's phenomenal.
Italy was great. Austria was also good. A lot of like just meat, like kind of like schnitzel they call it, but like kind of like with like potatoes and just like a lot of meat and potatoes really. The food in the UK is subpar, but Italy was phenomenal. Turkey was good. A lot of Mediterranean, like a lot of really good lamb in Turkey. I remember Italy. I mean, Italy is probably my favorite. So, yeah, you can't beat that.
And I got one last one. The course that you haven't played yet that you really want to play, like, could be anywhere.
Well, on the DP World Tour, I really have heard great things about Wentworth, BMW PGA Championship. Would love to play in that this year, hopefully. Royal County Down had the Irish Open last year. We're going to a different place this year, but hopefully it's coming back at some point. I played Muirfield a couple times, like a couple off weeks. One of my managers lives in North Berwick in Scotland, and Muirfield, it's phenomenal.
I've actually gotten to play Muirfield as well. That was one of my probably in my top 3. And I would say one of the weirdest things about playing over there is the clubhouses are so like non-American. They're just basically like a big dining hall, and you walk in and it's like a locker room and a dining hall, and that's it. You're like, where's the pro shop? Where's this? Where's that? And it's just so like, it's just golf in its purest form. You get out there and you play, you go change your clothes, you go eat, you leave. Like,
yep. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. A lot of some new courses this year, some of the same spots, which would be nice. And hopefully I can knock off a few off the bucket list and play in some big time events. So.
Hell yeah. Well, when is your next event? So you just played in Australia, right?
Yeah, that was a couple weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago now. The Middle East is coming up. So Bahrain, Qatar, then we go to South Africa. Or Bahrain, Qatar, Kenya, South Africa, I think it is. So that'd be end of January. So probably another 3 weeks at home, and then 3.5 weeks at home, and then off we go.
Get back on the road.
Yeah.
I got one last question before we let you go.
Sure.
How sick were the courses in Australia? Because from everything I've heard, dudes are just like, it's some of the best golf in the world. And it's just unfortunately so far from America that a lot of people aren't flying 18 hours to go play golf, but it looks truly unbelievable.
It is. Yeah, it's amazing. Royal Melbourne, the second week was phenomenal.
Stupid firm, stupid fast.
Yeah, watching the President's Cup there, kind of a little bit know what to expect a little bit as far as like the firmness of like chipping and pitching and kind of using the ground, and like links in a way in that regard, but like still you can go vertical if you want. But aesthetically, like tee to green, not wild as far as the design, but like going into the greens, second shots are critical. Greens are rock hard. If you got like a downwind off the right, like 6-iron, and you can't hit a cut, like you're probably going to hit it to 50 feet unless you like somehow hit a 7 and like rope it in 20 yards with the wind. And so like it's just hard to get the ball close.
Just shot making 101. Just got to work your ball.
Phenomenal. But I urge anyone that has the means to go and has the time to go, you will not be disappointed.
Heck yeah.
So.
Hell yeah. Well, Davis, man, we appreciate your time. Happy New Year to you. 2026 is going to be a big year for you. We're looking forward to like Mitchell does, and I'm going to start doing, just getting up early here in America. You get to watch the DP World Tour at like 5 a.m.
Love it.
It's electric to have the live golf on. My kid's obsessed with golf. And so getting him into it and having him watch it with me has been a blast. And I'm looking forward to watching you this year, man. And hopefully, I'm not going to ask you a last question, but I am. Are you so how does it work with any of the majors? Are you going to do you have time to try to qualify for any of those around the DP World Tour, or does you just focus on the DP World Tour for this year?
Yeah, there'll be a US Open qualifier in England that I'm going to probably do depending on what week. It'll be like on a Monday or a Tuesday of another event. So I'll have to go from like whatever event I just played to the qualifier, then from the qualifier to that event week. So I'll do that. And then British Open, the Open, there's like certain events that are they're like qualifying series. So I'll do those. Or like whatever event. It might be like an event for it might be like a duel. It might be like an event, and then at the same time they're doing like qualifying for the Open. So I'll do that as well. But every event on the regular schedule is so important as far as trying to establish yourself, get some points, make money, and then hopefully set yourself up for next season. So I'm going to do some of those, but it's more important to focus on each event at this point until I've earned my way into some of those events, at that time in my career, I guess I would say. So
for sure. Yeah. I got last question on the major topic.
The fifth last question for you.
This is a quick one. You can only win one major and you're done.
The Masters.
Okay. Couldn't even get it out. That's what I figured. But I had to ask. Okay.
Easy. Well, appreciate you joining us, man. Have a great 2026, and we'll look forward to talking to you again. Maybe we'll get you again next summer or next fall when you've won a DP World Tour event. Career's just taken off. We're looking forward to seeing it.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate your time, and Happy New Year to you both, and hopefully great things ahead for golf, the golf world in general, and myself on the links, hopefully. So
when you get your first win, you're getting on this podcast the next day. I'm holding you to that right now.
Done. You got it.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Love it. Thanks, bro.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.